All right, good evening, everybody. I have, as I told Daryl, I have bad news and I have worse news. The bad news is Alex is not here tonight. The worst news is you're stuck with me. So my apologies in advance, and two nights in a row too. Yeah. And the joke I've had with Alex, Alex has been leading for us. He showed up. I know you're all regulars. Have you been here before? It's your first time? Once before with Alex? With me? Oh, then I'm really sorry. You came to try somebody else and you got stuck with me again. We got some crazy karma going on here. But my joke with Alex always is, let's see, we opened the temple the end of 2006. About 4 months later, I think April of 2007, he showed up, found some little flyer thing for this Buddhist place, and he showed up, and so he's been around pretty much since year one, and started leading probably about 10 years ago. And so he always does the loving kindness practice, and I do the other stuff. And I always joke and I say he's loving and kind, and I am not. So I let him do the loving kindness class, and I do what I can. So, and to all of you millions of YouTube followers, welcome. Uh, Once again, my apologies that you're stuck with me. So we were joking also. So as I close my eyes and we start to do a meditation practice, if you all want to scatter because you're really disappointed Alex is not here, feel free to go. And those of you online, if you all want to completely drop off because you were really hoping for Alex, I probably won't even notice the difference. So I'll do my best, to fill Alex's shoes, which is not easy. He's really a special guy, special person. Um, I think of loving kindness, and those two words. That's Alex. He's loving and kind, and a million other things as well. But I think we're all. I think of literally the thousands of people that he's led and the lives he's touched over the years. Um, I think we're all very blessed and grateful. That he's been leading for so, and he's totally fine. He's healthy. Nothing's wrong. He had a work related thing that he got stuck with. So yeah. And to all of you who do decide to stay online, welcome. Nice to see you all here. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in when we get to that point. Um, but we'll start with a little meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away still. It's usually on the third visit that you start to float away. So you got one more time, you'll be good. Your mind won't shut off. You're not trying to stop the racing mind. You won't think nothing. We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. So you just want to be comfortable. Often helps in the chairs or benches, every seated. Just slide into the front third a little bit, relaxing the shoulders. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important with the practice, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, you'll settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Gently guide the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, just sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice, just sitting, breathing. keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe, knowing with each breath there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, and most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. And this is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. I mean, the night is young, you'll have a hard enough time getting wherever you're going without being disturbed. Meditation's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And that present moment is very often filled with tremendous amount of conflict and difficulty and challenges. And so the practice is learning to be with life as it arises, not running from it, which is what many of us have done for so long. And what happens is meditation and Buddhist practice for many people becomes the next thing that they run to. Now, it is healthier than a lot of things that we would typically or have in the past maybe run towards or turn to escape. But we want to be careful that we learn to bring Buddhist practice into our daily lives and not think that Buddhist practice is something outside of our daily life. Because there's a big difference there. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, which is where we spend so much of our time, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that. So much time worried and trying to control everyone outside of us. And this practice is working on our response to the world around us. But it is a practice, and it takes time. It's not a 6-week course. It's not a quick fix. It's something that every moment of our lives, we have an opportunity to practice being more kind, more patient, more understanding, more forgiving, more loving, more kind. I think I said kind already. Can never have too much kindness, right? See, look at all that kindness just pouring out of me. Must be a Wednesday night. So for me, I really prefer just to respond to questions. I'm happy to ramble, but I'd much rather ramble from what's on your mind. So I'd like to pause at this moment and really just turn it over to you. Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that's on your mind that you want to share or ask. And we use the rest of our brief time this evening, and I'll just respond to what's on your mind. And again, to everybody on YouTube, welcome, glad you're here. If you missed it, I'm Jeff. I'm filling in for Alex. It's not Tuesday or Saturday. It is Wednesday. You are here at the right time. Alex is just unable to make it this evening. So, but if you have any questions, feel free to add them here as well on the chat box on your screen. And we'll go from there. So thoughts, questions?
Do you journal or have like a gratitude practice every day?
Do I journal or do I have a gratitude practice every day? So the first part, that's really easy. Do I journal? No, I don't. I'm not a journaler. I'm a fan of journaling. I support journaling. I'm all in on journaling. Uh, it's something truly over the years with all the crazy things I've done and experienced and been a part of. I always say I should just start because it would be really cool to look back and read everything. I've said that like 1,000 times. So I don't journal personally. The second part to that, as far as a gratitude practice, yeah, every day. I mean, I have my own, which is very different. Even when I do, the intro to Buddhism classes, my own personal practice is a bit different from kind of what I share. Um, and so when I do my offerings and my own personal chants and prayers and things like that, my meditation practice, it is covered with gratitude to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of all time, all space, all direction, to the family, to the friends, the people who create this space, to the strangers, to those who piss me off, to those who've harmed me. Um, so gratitude is, I think, really at the heart for me of this practice. And to be able to truly and honestly look at experiences that, and this isn't something that, as far as like a daily practice, but part of my life with gratitude, just to expound on it a little bit, is really to look at really painful experiences that I've had, uh, whether they were self-inflicted or, legitimately traumatic experiences or silly little things, all of the above that have caused, heartache and pain and, things like that. To be able to reflect on those and have gratitude for those experiences has been life changing. Because very often, I'm sure none of you in this room, but very often for me, I would reflect back on things that I've done or, people I've harmed or times I've been harmed, things like that. And for many years early on, you carry that kind of anger, that resentment for those experiences towards for me, towards myself, but then also towards others. And so to be able to look at those honestly and understand that those experiences don't define who I am. Those experiences don't define who the other people are that may have been involved. If it was something that I think they did that harmed me, um, it's not who they are. It's just what their experience was at that moment. Um, and to be grateful for the opportunity to still be here and reflect on all that pain because it can be used as a tremendous motivator and inspiration to keep going. So, yeah. Someday I might journal about all that. Yeah. Do you journal? Are you a journaler?
I have a structured one, but I've been using it for 6 years and it's been all life changing.
When you say a structured one, what do you mean by that? Like it prompts you, or?
Yeah, it has different prompts like every morning and every night, but I swear like it makes me so much more grateful and my life has totally changed.
Wow. Just from journaling.
Yeah.
Open. Yeah. Is it like an online thing? I'm just curious.
It's called the Brendan Bouchard High Performance Planner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like there's like a morning mindset, an evening mindset, and then just like weekly and monthly prompts. It's
Very cool. Yeah. I work with college kids a lot, and journaling is their life. Yeah. Everything involves a journal. It's become like a water bottle,
Oh wow.
You have your water bottle in one hand and a journal in the other, and you're set,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other thoughts, questions? So there's a comment here. John, I'm guessing that's you possibly. Just referencing doing, showing up on a Wednesday and expecting it to be a loving kindness practice, and just referencing that, doing a different practice that you're usually here. And so bringing the calm into your home was unique and valuable. Yeah, I think it's one thing that's come out of this pandemic and us, moving everything to Zoom or YouTube or whatever it is that, you just have to ask yourself, like, how calm and peaceful is your home? And places like this, temples are built spiritual places are built, studios are built for people to go to and kind of develop a sense of calm and peace and cultivate that practice. But for the most part, people come to places like this, an hour or 2, 3 hours a week. And what about the rest of the time? And so this is, I think, the kind of virtual setup that so many people have gone to now really does create a unique opportunity that we didn't seek before or didn't create before, to where you recognize that you can have a space at home that can be just as calm and quiet and peaceful. Because ultimately, where does the calm and quiet and peace exist? Say again? Inside. Yeah. And so if we can cultivate that to where our heart is at peace, our mind is at peace, we are calm. I mean, it doesn't matter where we are. That practice goes with you. And that ultimately the temple or spiritual place, whatever you want to call it, is you. That's it. And then all the structures, all the buildings, all the walls, all the symbols, they all fall away. It's just you. So thanks for sharing. Other thoughts, questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with?
How often in a day would you say that you spend time meditating?
It was funny, which I was maybe going to bring this up tonight or not, just because it was still fascinating and like I've been playing it in my head all day long. But after class last night, there were 4 high school kids. They go to a Christian high school, and so they were tasked with observing a religious practice somewhere. And so they chose Buddhism because it was interesting to them. So I stood here for an hour last night with them, and it was brilliant. I'm just using this as my way to sneak in how cool it was to sit with like 4 like high school like diehard Christian fans, and I'm a Jew, and we're talking about Buddhism in an old Christian church. Like it was beautiful, and they were so beautiful, like expressing their love, like was really really cool. And so one of the questions was, literally she said, actually it was 4 high school kids and there was another one from Point Loma Nazarene College. And she said, what do you do all day? And like, literally like, what do you do all day? And I said, what do you mean, me personally? And she said, yeah. And she said, so do you just meditate like 10 hours a day? And I said, no, I fix toilets, windows, roofs, I have a personal practice of, I will sit every single day anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. That's it. Right. I have been for many years sharing the practice of a 5-minute meditation because, when I go out into public and things like that, here we sit longer, 20 minutes, but I'm a huge fan of getting people to develop a daily practice more so than how long, right? Did you brush your teeth today? Yesterday? Tomorrow? I mean, we might forget once in a while, but for the most part, you brush your teeth every day. And when you brush your teeth, do you have a timer on? Or you're like, how long has it been? Do you do it 3 minutes one day and then the next day you bump it to 5 and then the next day 10? No, you just brush your teeth because it keeps them clean. I view meditation the same way, that it's a daily practice. And the reality is, for most people who are new, I talked about this last night, and what I consider new is that, unless you've been at this for 20 years and it's really a big part of your life, new means you're probably doing something like this once or twice a week. You're lucky if you're able to get a couple meditations in at home before something annoys you or pisses you off, or the dog runs through, or the phone rings, or whatever it is, right? That's the average kind of person at home. So if I say, hey, do this 20, 30, 40 minutes every single day, the likelihood of that happening, 0. If I say do this 5 minutes a day, it goes up to like 2%, and I'm good with that. So I really hope that people recognize, which most people do if you show up here, the benefit of it, but then you have to make it a habit. And the easiest way to make it a habit is simplify it. Put it on your calendar. If you get up at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m., whatever time you get up, get up. Do you drink coffee? You a coffee drinker?
Yeah.
I mean, I am. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get up, splash water in your face, brush your teeth, get your coffee, go through your morning 20-minute routine, then sit down for 5 minutes. And just make it the same time every day for 5 minutes. And then I encourage people to do this every day for 3 weeks and then take a week off. Why would I suggest taking a week off?
So it doesn't get stale.
Say again?
So you don't get bored with it.
Fair enough, but that wasn't where I was going, right? So if you do something for 3 weeks and it's calming you down a little bit or helping you stay focused or relax and you take a break from it, what might happen?
You get dysregulated.
You notice the difference, right? So sometimes that difference when we do something that's healthy for us and then we set it and we stop, we recognize the difference. And sometimes for some people, that kind of break can help motivate you and remind you, right? How are you together or just, yeah. So when one of you gets angry or frustrated, she's smiling already, right? So it's tough, right? When one is angry or frustrated. And so when one is calm, it has a huge impact. So your practice isn't even for you. It's for the person you're sitting next to and for you, right? But none of us, you like dealing with people who are angry and stressed out all day long? No. But some reason we want people to deal with us when we're like that. So we recognize we do the practice for us, but it actually impacts those we love and care about the most. And you remind each other, hey, did you sit today? She's looking at you like, leave me alone, go sit, So
Because we've been coming, we had the, she sent me the message today. It was like, I guess we're going tonight.
well, you need to go. Yeah. It's developing that habit and routine is difficult. Like anything that's healthy for us, we kind of resist it. I don't know why. Most of us know what's good and healthy for us, and yet we just completely avoid it. So yeah, I'm not someone who sits around hours a day. To answer your question directly, I got way too much to do to sit and do nothing all day long. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, I kind of said this, but just to say it even more directly, don't worry so much about the length of time. If you sit for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that's okay too. It's not that like sitting longer is bad, but realistically, you're probably not going to work that in every single day. And then if you tell yourself you got to sit for 30 minutes and you only have 10, then you're not even going to do it at all. So just try to make it practical. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever use a meditation app or listen to meditation music, or no, just pure?
I'm pretty boring, huh? No, I'm just old school, like the way I learned through the Zen practice. There's a Brad Warner wrote a book. I've actually never read the book, but I know his teachings. Japanese Zen dude, or Japanese Zen practice. The title of the book is "Sit Down and Shut Up," and for me, that's the practice. So the Zen practice very specifically is you're waking up to the present moment. And I'm a big fan, just like journaling, of people who use these things and use the apps on them, because for millions of people, it's the only way that they'll do it. Make sense? So if they have to use an app to meditate, Insight Timer I know is one that so many people use, and there's a lot of others out there. If they use an app for all that stuff, great. If they have CDs and music that they use or whatever it is to meditate, that's great. It's just not my personal practice. For me, sounds, music, I don't want to press a bunch of buttons before I have to sit down and breathe. I just want to sit and breathe without anything. Just this and this. I just want to sit with that and see what arises. Not, what's everybody else doing on the app, and, what's this music making me think about, and, guided meditations can be really wonderful and beneficial, but they're also taking you away. So this isn't a negative about it. It's just a different approach and practice. That the Zen practice, present time awareness, is you're just sitting and you're breathing. You're becoming aware of what's happening around you, right? You feel the temperature, you feel the cold, you hear the sounds, you hear the doors, you hear the breathing. You just become fully present with everything that's going on. And when you're being guided or you're listening to music or things like that, you're actually not present. You're elsewhere. So the challenge sometimes is, in working with, folks with PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, trauma, tremendous experiences for so many years. If you sit for 5 minutes in silence, what are you left with?
Yourself.
Yourself. And what are most of us trying to run away from? Ourselves. So if you are someone that does guided meditations and uses apps and all those types of things, wonderful. Please keep doing it, keep using it. But don't be afraid to balance that every once in a while with a few minutes of silence. Because if 5 minutes of silence is absolute torture, then that's something to pay attention to. Like, wow, why can't I sit with my own head for 5 minutes? And if it's incredibly painful, which it is for many people, then say, okay, I'm going to do it for 3 minutes. If you can't do it for 3 minutes, try 1 minute. But ultimately, it would be really nice if we as humans can learn to just be with the cause of all of our suffering, which is ourselves. Yeah. So. Yeah. No journaling, no apps, no music. So boring. Yeah. I'm a boring Buddhist, I guess. I don't know. What else? Thoughts, questions?
Do you react a lot differently now than you used to, like to toxic family members using this practice?
Funny how you added that extra piece. Are you referring to your own personal experience?
Well, I just said, like, since I've been practicing meditation, I respond a lot different to people that used to like trigger me. So I'm just curious how.
Yeah. No, I thought it was just interesting that you asked the question and then you shared, quote, toxic family members, So do I act differently? Yes, 100%. I think that this practice, if you stick with it, like you said, it will change you. It will absolutely change you. It'll change the way you perceive yourself. It'll then become, because you see yourself differently. When you begin to have love, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, understanding, respect, appreciation towards yourself for all the harm you've caused and all the things you've done wrong, you then become able to share that outwards and see that in others. And so when we look at, people that are toxic, whether it's family, friends, strangers, whatever it might be, the practice for me has really helped cut through that pride, that ego, that sense of self. Any of you ever think you're right? Big smile back there, right? So we often think we're right. I mean, we don't roam around all day long thinking we're wrong. Usually, we think we're right. And so anytime we have conflict with anybody, we're so wrapped up in, well, I'm right and they're wrong. Well, if you're in an argument and you think you're right, what do you think the other person thinks? That they're right, And there you have the nature of all conflict in the world. So when we are embracing and being with people who are toxic, and sometimes, yes, I mean, in many situations, we can remove ourselves from that. toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, that sometimes colleagues, whatever it is, sometimes, yes, we do have an option to just completely remove ourselves from that situation. And to quote you, you said toxic family members, which means you don't always have the option of just, telling so and so to not show up on Thanksgiving, right? I mean, you have that option, but the reality is there are people that we might not be able to just remove ourselves from. So if we can interact with them in a way that we understand their pain, we understand their suffering because we've been there, that we can have compassion for them, for what they've gone through, um, and know that they really are no different than we are, in a sense that they're human, doing the best they can with what they got. They've been through a lot of pain themselves. And, I think the real question is when we look at someone else's suffering, as the Buddha called it, dukkha, we know when we treat people poorly, it's because we're hurting. We don't roam around happy and loving all day long and then treat people like crap typically, right? We're hurting inside. And so that becomes the way we project onto others. So when others are that way, this is not an easy practice. I mean, I can sit up here and talk about how easy it sounds, but it's incredibly difficult to have love and compassion towards those that have really done horrific things to us or really toxic people. But that's the practice, is to see their suffering. And I think this practice is, over time, really does help with being with people who are like that. Doesn't mean you have to like it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Doesn't mean you have to, interact. But can you be in the space with them and not feel hatred? Yeah, that's helped you.
Oh, totally. It's been like a whole 180.
Yeah, it's a game changer. Yeah, for sure. Do you prepare yourself prior to it? Do you know, you're outside and you're ready to go into the house and you're like, okay, I'm going to put my Buddhist face on and.
It's more so just, day-to-day interactions with people and just if I'm about to call my mom, just see it, just have so much more compassion. And,
yeah,
realize that their offenses or if they say something rude to me, it's probably something going on with their self, so it doesn't affect me anymore.
Right. And that's, I think, where that that understanding of, Buddhist teachings around impermanence, that kind of, and that sense of self that we think is so just like you say, you talk about your mom, whoever it might be, that we don't know the pain and suffering that they have gone through, all of it, or what they're going through at that moment. And so when we interact with them, all we have is this idea of how we want them to be towards us in that moment. I always say to the college kids, if you want to practice patience, pick up the phone and call the family member that drives you crazy. And after 5 minutes, when you're on the phone and you just want to hang up and you're like, I'm done, you're ready to jump out the window. You're like, okay, 5 more minutes. If you want to practice stuff, we have to practice. You don't practice patience by putting yourself in situations that are always smooth. You put yourself in difficult situations, and that's where we grow. So, and those we say are, our true Zen masters, our greatest teachers. The ones that irritate you, that challenge you, that frustrate you, that cut you off on the road, that are just rude and nasty to you. We bow to them and we say thank you, because they gave us an opportunity to reflect on our own stuff. Oh, I thought you were just fixing your hat.
Yeah.
I thought your hand went up.
I can say something.
What's that?
I can say
Oh,
something.
go ahead. Yeah.
My parents came to visit a few months back, and I don't have the best relationship with them. They live on the other side of the country, so I don't have to see them very often. Which is nice. But My father, I have a tattoo of the Buddha on my arm. I
Mhm.
think you know that, but whatever. Not everyone knows me in here. And my dad asked me if I was, doing Buddhism. He said doing Buddhism, and I was like, I practice Buddhism. And then they came over and saw my apartment, and I took pictures, and I have them up on my wall of the statues up there, and just my own little statues that I have at my house. And it was really weird how he was just so like, okay. He's a evangelical pastor, very like we're Christian. And so it was kind of nice to have him just be like, well, you believe in something,
Yeah.
and so it was a really good interaction.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's better than you expected him to be.
Way better.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the funny thing about expectations, is that we get these, and Buddhism is the teaching of non-attachment, but we get attached to the stories in our head and the expectations. Like I'm sure coming into that experience, I mean, I shouldn't say I'm sure, but I'm guessing, based on what you just said, that you were expecting more conflict, more,
Yeah.
something going on as soon as Dad entered and saw everything, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the stories in our head and those expectations actually turn out so much better.
It was. He actually told me he was proud of me.
That's beautiful.
Like that was the first. I'm 37, and that was the first time in my adult life that he's ever said that to me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay.
You didn't know what to do.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I have to defend myself, or I have to, And there wasn't anything like that. It was really nice. And I mean, I don't talk to him every day. We're not best friends now or anything, but
Yeah.
at least it was a win while they were here.
Yeah. And there's that moment that, that's worth a lifetime, and it doesn't necessarily make up for anything or change past or correct anything. But, I think in each person's way, and I try not to get too personal because I don't know anybody's real personal situations, or, obviously don't know the family members. But I think each person truly wants to express love and kindness towards themselves and others, and very often they just don't know how, which comes a lot from their childhood, their upbringing, their trauma, their pain, whatever it is. And so, again, just from the brief amount that you just shared, like the fact that that moment occurred is really profound, really beautiful,
Yeah, and it wasn't so like, or this and that. So I think I've been coming here about a year now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just completely changed my life. Like, honestly.
That's great. Beautiful. Good. Well, on that note, I will close. So we'll join palms. We'll do a transfer of merit. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. Thanks all. Oh, do you do announcements usually? Do you want to do? I mean, I don't want you to feel like I don't want you to feel cheated out of your.
Like a thing here, but nothing.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm tonight's host, Daryl. Dharma Bum started 15 years ago for those who wanted to talk for Buddhism, for those who showed up. The leaders are not nuns, gurus, priests, monks. They're not looking for students. They offer sessions almost every day of the week. If you look on the board above the shoe rack or on the website, you can see a schedule. They offer a recovery sangha on most days of the week for those who have addiction. They have a family sangha for parents, teenagers, toddlers, and children. And they have a half-day retreat on Saturdays. And they have a lending library, so if you just like a book that you see, please borrow it and bring it back when you're done. And straighten up your cushions if you use them, and that's it.
Thanks. Thank you all. Be safe.
Yeah.